Children used to explore first and specialize later, but now they're being optimized before they even know who they are. So this week on the Rundown, we look at how algorithms, personalization, and recommendation systems may be shaping identity in childhood, and whether efficiency is replacing imagination. Are we helping kids succeed, or are we deciding who they become too early? Let's get into it. Welcome to the Rundown. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Good to have you here. Welcome to the Rundown. My name is David. I'm happy to have you here. If you're here, all of you, anyone who's here tonight listening to my voice, you get a cookie or something, because you poor folks have had to listen to me every damn night this week. I am so sorry for that. It's all Tony's fault. I mean, that's the truth of it. It's all Tony's. I just want to follow in Tony's footsteps and do this every night.
I'll take the hit for that, David. I'll take the hit for it. No problem.
How you doing, Tony?
I'm good.
Good. It's really good to see you.
Thank you again for last night.
Oh, it was a pleasure. What a great discussion. The people you have on, the educators you have on are just outstanding human beings. Really amazing human beings.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hey, and we have a great team behind the scenes as well. Absolutely.
Here's another great human being. Look at this great human being right here.
Okay, but can we talk about how great you were, how great the Stream Deck show was, and how great the Tony Mobley show was? So, like, you're picking really good places to be.
You know what made me happy about the Stream Deck show? I had absolutely nothing to offer to that stream. The only reason I was on the Stream Deck show is because I was the one who suggested a Stream Deck show. Compared to everyone else on that panel, I literally had nothing to offer, and I was so happy when Bill couldn't hear, and I actually got to do something worthwhile.
You were definitely in your element on there, but also I push back a little bit because I think you do have a lot to offer on the Stream Deck. There's so much that you were one of the first people who kind of really helped us jump into how triggers worked and how all of that works.
No,
so I think you're being a little, but yeah, I think you have a lot more to offer. I disagree. I disagree.
Look, I'm very happy with where I land. I'm not complaining at all with where I land in this. Dave Troutman, how you doing, sir?
Well, when I was working at the university, we made a series of shows on children's development, the stages of development of children.
We haven't even started.
It was at the same time as my wife was pregnant. And so I learned all this stuff when my wife was pregnant, but it doesn't mean I know anything about it today.
Well, we're putting that to the test. That's what we're going to be doing. And finally, this fine-looking, well-read gentleman, where'd he go?
Siggy.
You're right.
Where'd he go? Hey, Sky.
Why
are you hiding?
Can I? No, that was my Kilroy impression because I was being a child.
Oh, okay.
Because we're embracing our inner child and where did we come from and how did we grow up and end up being like this? Well, somebody had to.
They did indeed. Someone definitely had to. And by the way, we're sending our love to Lois. She isn't. She's on the mend from not feeling too great, and so we hope you're feeling better, Lois. And check Discord, Lois, because I sent you a present last week. A whole bunch of pictures of birds. Okay,
that's what that was.
That's what that was. I was thinking about her. All right, hey, folks, let's jump into the news. What do you say? So we got some news this week. Nothing like too big, I guess. But this first one I actually find fascinating. Amazon is getting into the health AI game. So Amazon has or is launching. I don't know if they actually did. It might still be in beta, but they have launched Health AI. It's an healthcare AI assistant called Health AI. One of the things that's interesting to me about this, by the way, is that this was announced the same week when a study came out about OpenAI's health advice, which said that OpenAI, it was not doing a good job. It was not telling people to go to the hospital when it should have been, and it was telling people to go to the hospital when they didn't have to. So I just think it's really, really interesting. These both happen at the same time. Amazon has been pushing into healthcare for a long time. This isn't really new.
Right.
They made a medical acquisition point worth almost $4 billion. They're building a consumer-facing AI layer on top of medical data. So I have not seen this yet. Let's go to my Amazon account and see. Now I have to switch out of this and I have to switch to my personal account because I have a feeling it's not going to be in business accounts yet. So
I started to set it up.
Oh, yeah? All right. So how do I,
Yeah, but
medical
I didn't-
care? Ask
like
Health AI.
Yeah, it gives you a little questionnaire to get to know you first. And I got halfway through the questionnaire. It's like, okay, I've got to take more time with this.
Okay. Oh, now it's giving me a thing. So hold on. I'm going to get my little code here. And then, am I getting a code? Wait, did I get my code?
It'll send
I
it
got
to
my
your,
code. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, got my code. Verify.
Okay, are you using a speaker or headphones, Dave? Because I'm going to say, hey, Alexa, order me a couple of flip-flops and send it to... No, sorry, I won't.
All right. So, yeah, there's a lot of questions here. Are there?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I started out and I was like, okay, this is going to take more time.
Yeah, and I'm giving all of my personal information away here right on our website. Oh, actually, no, you guys can't see this. Sorry. I thought I was showing this to you. All right, once I get past, let's see. All right, your health records unlock personal insights. Allow health record access. Okay. Okay. So, well, there you go. Okay. So, hello, David. I'm Health AI Beta. How can I help you with your health today? Book a visit, check symptoms, manage prescriptions, understand my health, your care dashboard. On-demand care for 30 plus conditions, $0 with Prime. Well, that's kind of interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
I want to see what that's about. I want to learn more about direct message care. Direct message care is a convenient way to get the treatment, no video call or live chat needed. Secure messaging with a one medical provider. There's that acquisition. What it covers: acute needs, colds, flus, UTIs, sinus infection, pink eye, chronic conditions, high blood pressure, and anti-aging skincare, male hair loss, yada, yada, yada. You describe your symptoms through a conversation with Health AI. Health AI asks relevant questions. If your condition is covered, Health AI, with your permission, securely shares the information with the one medical provider. The provider review. So this is a smart use of AI, right?
Yeah.
This is, you're putting this stuff in. AI is kind of parsing it, putting it together, figuring it out,
Triaging,
and then
yeah.
passing it on to a human. The provider reviews your case and responds with a personalized treatment plan via direct message. 14 days of unlimited follow-up messaging with your provider is included. Per pay treatment is starting at $29 per treatment, no membership. A one medical membership included at no extra cost with membership, which is $99 a year. I mean, $99 a year for unlimited access via chat. And as a
Take
Prime
one
member,
down, pass it around, $98.
as a Prime member, you get 5 free treatments in 2026 at no additional cost. Wow.
So it's like a version of concierge care, which is now starting to make its way into the healthcare universe, where you pay a membership fee, $99 in this case, and then you can see and talk to your people, whoever they are, more often than what you can do in what's happening in regular care, where you call and you get 4 months and then you get a primary visit.
Right.
So I think it's interesting.
So I clicked, the next one I clicked on is help me book a visit. I don't have a visit I need, but so the first thing it's asking for is for my insurance, I guess, because I guess it's going to look for providers perhaps. Let's meet my Health AI. Gathering more information. Let's see what this says. Health AI is what it can do, personalized health insights. Understand your medical records, find and book appointments. Okay, we saw all that. It doesn't replace a doctor. Good. All right, this is just explaining what it can do. I also want to let you know that your external health records are currently being fetched through Health Information Exchange. What is that? They should be available shortly. That's
Yeah, and please don't record that.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
no.
don't want to. I don't want to know all your secrets.
Yeah. So it actually says at the top here, gathering. Let me see if I can say gathering health data. I wonder what it's gathering though. Like what is? I don't know what is public about my health data. It's interesting. I'd be curious.
Well, I'm curious if you're. So one of the things about Amazon Health, because I had looked into it a while back, is that I think it does have to work. It does work with a PPO, right? So it ends up being an out of network provider. But I think once it knows what your system is and you've given it permission, then it probably can do the same thing that doctors can do, which is access health records by being, I'm David's doctor, I need this information. So it could be something like that.
All right. I told it I want to know about my my symptoms, and it reminded me. It says, "Hey, we're looking for those outside health records." I don't know what it's going to pull up. It's really interesting. I have a bad cough, and I'm all congested. That's pretty run of the mill.
Standard.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty standard right now. My wife is.
Wow.
Sorry to hear you're
really
not
struggling.
feeling well, David. A bad cough with congestion can really wear you down. Before we look into care options, a few quick questions. How long have you had these symptoms? Do you have any fever? I mean, this is what a doctor would ask. How long have you had these symptoms? About 4 days. No fever, but lethargy. Let's see what it says about that. I'm in the middle of creating an illness. Thanks for sharing that. A cough, congestion, and fatigue lasting about 4 days without fever is a common pattern. It could be a number of things like a viral upper respiratory infection, a cold or sinus congestion, among A provider can help narrow that out. Would you like to explore care options through One Medical for this? Well, that's interesting. It didn't really. Okay, maybe what I gave it was too generic. Or too general?
No, I feel like what its purpose is to bypass the nurse practitioner or the person who is coming in, taking your vitals and doing that pre-call before you get to your actual care person.
Right, but
so I think that's what it's doing.
I don't know what it accomplished just now. It said, all it did is I told it, I mean, I'm going to have to give the same information to the provider at this point, aren't I?
It just read you what's on the NIH. That's all there is.
Right.
Do the same search on NIH.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's giving you the same thing that like a chat GPT gives you, right? Or you go, hey, I want this, and it goes, great, here's the information that I have or that I have found for you or that I've made up on the spot. What this is doing is intaking you and then routing you to someone else.
Right.
And presumably.
I'd be willing to bet, actually, Tamara, that if you did pop this into like ChatGPT, that it would tell you, oh, you have X. Like it would be,
that's exactly it.
Much more definitive than this is being. Yeah.
This is customer service to get you into their One Medical system, which is pretty brilliant.
Wow.
And, presumably all the things that you typed in they're you, right? They're not a person who's translating your information through a medical lens, right? A nurse who is checking you in, they are hearing what you say and they're putting it into their records in nursing speak, like in medical speak. What this is very likely doing is it's doing the intake and then it's saying, would you like to talk to someone? It's routing people who are in that one network and presumably they get a copy of that chat when they're connected to you. So it's that's probably how it is working.
I have a feeling that you'll be able to do a lot more once it finishes grabbing whatever it's grabbing, because like I can't add preferences, I can't add health interests.
Right.
So I have a feeling that there's this, all I've really done here is enter the onboarding piece of it. And we'll have to check back next week maybe and see if it gets any better.
I find it strange that you have to pay a subscription for this, because in most of the public health care in the world, you can call somebody 24/7 and call and talk to a nurse. And then they will assess you verbally rather quicker than typing and thinking and doing the rest. And then they'll recommend where you go, and they'll call an ambulance for you if they think it's
hold on.
desperate serious.
But who?
No, this is public health right now. I can call somebody 24/7. And I'll talk to a nurse.
Not in America.
A qualified person.
But
yes.
in
England and in France and in Germany and all the major industrial nations have solved this already.
We had that for 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you still had subscription services, right? And I don't have to subscribe to anything to get an answer to my health question.
But Dave,
yeah,
my understanding I don't know about Canada, but I happen to know about Israel, where it's the same thing, that everyone gets free healthcare.
Yes.
That a lot of people who have means purchase what did you call it, Tamara? The concierge.
Like it's a concierge care.
They purchase an add-on because they want better care than what they're getting with the publicly available.
If it's available, yes.
Right.
You can't get better care than what we offer. So
they've started to
one-stop shop.
They've started to kind of separate out. You used to go to the doctor and you'd get a doctor's appointment. You could tell the doctor everything that's going on. What they've done is they've started to separate that pre-piece or the post piece and be like, this is a telehealth call. It is 20 minutes or 30 minutes where you can just ask me all the questions you want, but you can't necessarily ask me all the questions you want in the appointment itself. That's just for gathering data. So I do think that's interesting. But I will, without going into a bunch of stuff, I've been going through some medical issues and I've gone to multiple doctors now where they go, wow, like we've never seen this before. I've never seen this before. And all of a sudden I'm like, you know what I want? And I'm like, I go to ChatGPT or something. I go, I do not need a doctor. I have one of those. What I need is a deep researcher. Can you please tell me if XYZ is possible and give me the research data? Because I'm so like, how do you respond to that? Like, I'm so sorry you've never seen this before.
Slawluck is
I still need information.
Yeah. Slawluck saying in the chat that, this can't be a good idea because, giving Amazon more information on you. And on the one hand, look, I've given up on my own privacy. I'm very much out there. But you can absolutely imagine how having especially medical information that could impact how health insurance providers, what they offer you, what they sell you. If they know ahead of, they are going to have now more information than you may have given them otherwise. Life insurance providers could also somehow access this information. So it's tricky. It's really tricky.
I think the one thing to your point too, and to Tlalik's point is, as you were going through it, it said, hey, I'm going to be checking this other thing. It would have never occurred to the average person that that's possible, but that is possible because that's how doctors get your information to begin with. That is a network, and you're basically saying, yes, I'm going to allow Amazon to do that. So this particular service really services Amazon One Medical that they've been trying to push for a really long time. That's a little more complicated than Amazon makes it sound.
One Medical, and I imagine they're a pharmacy also. They have
they are a pharmacy. Yeah.
Well, it is still gathering my health data. I honest to God have no idea what it's gathering, but I'm fascinated to find out. I can't
wait to find out.
I know. I'll report. I hope I'm healthy, for goodness sakes.
Exactly.
I'll report back when I'm here.
That green stuff between your toes has got to go. I'm just saying.
It really
just saying.
Amazon has.
But I mean, look, if it gathers your data and then it goes, hey, David, I noticed that you have asthma. That cough could be one of these things if you take in your rescue inhaler. Right?
I would love for. I don't know if I'd love for it, but I'm very happy if there's publicly available information about my health. I'm very happy for it to access that. I just can't imagine what it is.
Right.
All right. Next up. Does anyone remember Huddles?
I do. I had such high hopes for Huddles.
It's dying. It was
Did it ever live?
It never lived. It was. I got a notification today that Zoom has some new release notes. We're getting a big Zoom update on Monday, 7.0. It's a full point, not even a point bump. Excuse me. It's a full whole number bump. And one of the things hidden in there is that Zoom Huddles is going bye-bye. So Zoom Huddles was, I thought, a really interesting idea, and they never really made it available to a lot of folks. But basically, within your org, you could sort of have a side panel with a persistent opportunity to jump into rooms with people. So you could see who else was working. You could kind of tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, come into this, let's go talk about this, or let's go have a meeting over here or whatever. I got access to it at one point, but the story of my life, because I'm the only person in my org, I have no friends. There was no one to meet with, and it only worked within your Zoom org. So, but yeah, it's they're retiring it officially.
When they present
idea that nobody wanted. Yeah.
Well,
when they presented huddles, we were so excited.
Yeah.
All of us were excited because it really felt like what their idea was, which just never came to fruition, was creating kind of this digital space. You could map out your own room. It could look like the way you wanted to. You'd be like, hey, Dave, let's go talk on the couch. And you could kind of go there. And that idea was so exciting. And it just never happened that way, which makes me think that was like one of those great ideas where people are like, it'd be cool. And then they found out it may be harder to do than.
And we were the little office hours was kind of the little petri dish of possibility, because there was a large community that had been trained inside of the Zoom interface versus the enterprise stuff that Teams or something else is trying to convince you of doing, or God forbid, Google. That chat should have died, but is still alive. But anyway, so it's just a thing that. Maybe it was ahead of its time, David. Maybe
Google,
it'll come back. It'll come
Google,
back.
What was it? Google, not Circles. Google.
Google Plus.
No, it was.
Well, no, not Google Plus.
Google Wave. Remember Google Wave?
Google Wave. Yeah.
I loved Google Wave.
I love Google.
Again, like those are like great ideas that just never. Like the thing about Huddles is that it really was a workplace app. But the people who got excited about it were not part of a workplace.
Right, exactly.
So what we wanted was like, hey, what if office hours met in this really cool tech lab that we created? So that's where I think it was like the workplace people are like, nah, I need to just meet with you one-on-one. And
it failed for office hours because none of us are in the same org. That's precisely
right. That's exactly it. So it's like what it was meant for was not serving the people who really kind of got excited about it.
It's an enterprise system.
Say again?
An enterprise system,
right?
That you've trained everybody to speak the same lexicon, the same language, and here's the walls that you have to live within,
right?
And you can't play outside that boundary.
I still love the idea if you can figure it out to be like a group outside of your enterprise, but
I do love that idea.
Alas,
we bid you farewell.
It's called the Rundown on Thursday nights. We're all gathered here.
This is our huddle. This is our huddle. We tap each other to be here.
Exactly. Huddle. It's a warm.
Lawlex here. Tony Mobley's. Oh, he's here twice. Tony, you're all over the place.
Tony's everywhere.
Like me.
All right, my friends.
Okay. Do you remember Romper Room?
I was on Romper Room. We've established this.
Wait a second.
I was on Romper Room at 3 years old, and so anytime we go, I see this.
Stop.
What?
Stop. You were on Romper Room?
Correct.
Yeah.
But we were probably on different Romper Rooms because Romper Room was
absolutely
local.
A franchise. It was a franchise.
I got to play with all the fun toys.
Why wasn't I on Romper?
I don't know. You would have loved Romper Room.
That's amazing.
You didn't have a TV station that was small enough in a small enough market that needed to fill that airtime at 7 o'clock in the morning with something.
Oh my goodness!
So Miss Susie or Miss Ellen or whatever, she was just she was a weather reporter in training that wanted to do something, and she had to play with children that she hated. But we didn't care because we were given things and a ring and there it is. Go, and
Dave. The little mirror where she was looking through nothing.
This is the punchline.
So
this is the punchline.
I will say Romper Room was probably the beginning of me wanting to go into television because I thought I was going to go play with toys. And what I loved were the big cameras. And what I loved was the magic of, I'm sorry if I'm going to break this for everybody. She looked through a mirror with no glass at a teleprompter that had all of
Oh.
a scroll of people's names that were provided by
Camera.
the families. So they saw my sister and they saw that, and you could feel like it was you. That made me want to do, that's probably the beginning of me wanting to do
You know,
television.
you just made me think of
And
Tamara.
she would say your name. She would say
Mhm.
my name when I was at home because
Yeah.
she would always mispronounce it, Schuyler.
I was I
My whole
mentioned
life.
earlier that I sent some pictures to Lois because my wife and I went for a walk last week in this beautiful preserve with all these birds, and I commented to my wife that it's really sad that I was far more interested in the lenses on the cameras than I was in the birds and the alligators, because people there had the most amazing cameras and lenses. I kept asking, what is that, a Sony? Okay. All right. We're moving on, folks.
I have friends who've asked me why I have no video of my wedding. They were all producers.
For most of human history, childhood, like we were just discussing, was defined by exploration, right? Romper Room was all about just exploring the world around us.
You're welcome.
Today, children are increasingly shaped by systems that are designed to predict, personalize, and optimize behavior early. And full disclosure, I'm a big proponent of some of those systems. So the tension that we want to talk about today is not really about screens. It's not about screen time. It's really about whether childhood can remain open-ended and free and exploratory in an age when everything seems to be guided and directed by algorithms. So I wanted to start with this question and very broadly. Do you feel like we're using technology to support development, or are we quietly narrowing it without realizing it? What is the impact on a child's development because of the technology we're using?
I have to qualify that I'm going to be telling a joke now. I used to have a 2-word parenting style, duct tape. But you can't tell jokes like that anymore. But here we are talking about what's going to constrain the mind of the growing mental capacity of small children. I mean, I'm very blessed with 2 small grandchildren, and watching my son be such an amazing parent that I wish I could have been. But he has actually read the books because he's blessed to not have dyslexia, and he has a loving wife that also encourages him. And he's he works from home, but he's there with his children and loves into them dearly. And so I'm watching this 30-something raise the 3rd generation past me, and they are very attended to, encouraged, but also, again, not let to go, free range in that sense, but they do feel loved, and they are given a lot of opportunities that today's world can bring, but not a screen.
No screens at all?
They've minimized them. They had the babysitter iPad for about a minute, and I think those have since become the carrot at the end of the day. They are now the tasty treat rather than the absolute, shut up and hear.
Right. The aspect of this that I am a supporter of when it comes to children's development is the idea of responsive and personalized education, in that we now have tools that can give every child, I'll give you one example. So we use a tool in my school called Zern. Instead of Learn, it's Zern with a Z. It's a math program. And like many other programs, the child jumps in, does some problems. It immediately kind of figures out where that child is, and it gives them the next appropriate problem to push them forward. State testing is very much like this also in Florida. We have state tests that are responsive to the child. What's wonderful about that is that it allows the child to move much more quickly through their learning because it knows what they need to do next. It can give them a pathway to follow. The problem that perhaps it also brings is that they're given a path from day one. They don't have an opportunity to diverge from that path really at all with these tools.
Yeah, and responsive learning and responsive those kind of programs, they've been doing that with like the SAT and the GRE for a really long time. And if you say you had a bad day or you get that one easy question wrong, then they have now made a decision. The computer's made a decision about every other question to give you, and then that does that block you in a certain way. So I do think there's good and bad things about it.
Mhm.
I imagine, David, that your school does not involve kids coming in the morning and sitting in behind a little bank in a computer lab for 8 hours and then them going home. I'm assuming they also go out and play and do all of,
Of course.
and do those things too, right? So I do think there's a balance to it. But I also, and I love it for the same reasons, because I was doing this for a long time. I mean, I used to create a Moodle where my ESL students logged in. I was teaching the exact same content, but what they logged into was a scaffolded version. So we were having a shared experience. And that's one thing I think that is not as helpful about just having a computer target from one to one, is that your kids are not learning in a shared environment, which means some kids get it, some kids don't. You learn from other students, because I could be the best teacher in the world. I'm not. I could be the best teacher in the world, but I will never be the best teacher for every single kid in my class. And so a good teacher knows that I'm not the best teacher for Johnny, but you know who's a good teacher for Johnny? Caroline. And if I put them in the right group together,
Sure.
then both of them are going to thrive. So I think that's the piece of it that is always a balance.
I will say that you're right. Of course, my school is not the kind where the kids come sit in a cubicle and do their thing. I will say that we have probably not paid as much attention to math for the kids than we have with other subjects, because we know we have a responsive tool and
Right.
it's easy. And so in that respect, we've probably dropped the ball a little bit on that, because we have come, because it's so good, we've come to rely on it too much. Tony, let me let you jump in.
Yeah, I was thinking about this as we were talking about it, from the standpoint that, that there is a difference between educating children and training children. And I think that part of the issue becomes, what is it that we are doing in, individual school systems, and even within even certain districts, based on what the resources are for specific, communities, and certain communities where the tax base is extremely good, then the tools, even in a public school system, is better. And so the question becomes, are we really just, training children, or are we creating an atmosphere where they are educated? And when I say educated, what I mean is that they have the opportunity to be creative from what they learn. They are able to move beyond the box that is presented for them. They are able to pull in the things that will enrich their lives, and they'll be able to move forward. Whereas training is just, you know how to do something, and that's all you know how to do. And if you do it well, then you've completed the program.
Tony.
Yeah, I go
sorry.
with that. I was going to say, there's a big difference between training and learning. We learn with training, but training is aimed at an outcome. And if you give children chance to explore and to test or experiment, they learn themselves. And they do this a lot. My sister and I were taking care of her grandchildren for a whole day, 3 of them. And at the end of the day, we went to IHOP to have dinner, and then they were going to be sent to bed. And the youngest was playing with a spoon, and my sister thought, quit playing with a spoon. And I'm going, no, he's not playing with it. Just watch. No, he's trying to balance it on the edge of the plate. He's trying to learn where the center of gravity is from a spoon. He's been doing the experiments like this all day, and you haven't noticed
Right.
because he's ignoring you. He's just going on with exploring the world. He's only 7, and he's still exploring the world, and he's not playing. He's learning. And I found that the same with me. I'd go to school at grade 3 or 4, and the teachers would call me, grouchy. Well, yeah, I was, but I was not in a condition to learn today. I
Right.
came with a problem or an attitude, and they weren't going to deal with me out of the other 30. So I got, my days weren't always good. And I got report cards saying, Dave's very moody. Yes, I am. But I still learned.
When we've been thinking, and I've been thinking really about early elementary and elementary school children, but you also have me thinking, both Tony and Dave, about college and university, and not for the longest time, for the past maybe 5-6 years,
from the 60s.
For the past 5 or 6 years, I personally have, when my girls were in college, actually, I've more and more felt like, college is a waste of money. Trade schools are where it's at. But now you have
friends
me
who went
thinking,
to university used to call it the factory.
Right. But now you have me thinking that actually trade schools are this kind of optimization thinking, and universities are the exploration. When I was in university, I almost never went to class, but there was a club that I was really involved with, and I built my chops there, and I rose up in the leadership, and yada yada yada. I don't know. Maybe universities are worth it. Sky, go for it, please.
Well, this is where I'd be very curious if we had somebody coming in from Germany that would help us understand the systems that are in other parts of the world that are actually looking at this situation because I know when we were over there performing in the plays that we did and teaching English through drama, which was always fun, but the different systems were that at a certain level you would, and maybe David Troutman, you can help me. These different, one was an academic track, and one was, okay. See, this is where it's been a long time since I've been there. I just know there was distinct
about
delineation.
Grade 7, what you would call grade 7, they decide that you're going to be an engineer, or you're going to be a mechanic, or you're going to be a doctor, and then they put you on the stream and hope you survive. Yeah.
Wasn't there a dystopian movie about that? Like some dystopian movie where you were determined. It's determined at birth what your job was.
A couple of movies are like that. Yeah.
The Giver's like that. You get your. I think that like that idea of tracking it really did come down to where it became haves and have-nots, right? Because we already know that people who read to their kids and who talk to their babies, when they get to kindergarten, they are so far above. And someone who has a 5,000 word vocabulary and someone who has a 35,000 word vocabulary, I could be the best teacher. I'm not catching that kid up probably ever in their lifetime. So I think that untracking people and saying college is available for everyone has shifted things. But we've also shifted education so that what we are doing now is when they get into kindergarten, which used to be a year for exploring, right? It used to be about, cutting and playing and all these things that we kind of said, oh, well, that's not academic enough. And I remember even, 20 years ago when I had my first grade class, we were doing math and I had bears and one of the parents was like, are you sure that bears is not too immature for them? And I said, absolutely not, because that is how they're tactile humans and they learn through play. So I think that all things are fair game, but I think that there are ways, like I don't really need to teach a pre-K to even 8th grader how to use AI in an advanced way or how to use computers in a way that is going to give them high level job skills. I don't need to teach them that at that moment. And I think we've gotten a little away from the fact that children develop in a certain way. And I would have kids who were in 2nd grade and they'd never held a pair of scissors before because their mom cut everything for them. actually cutting in a straight line requires motor skills. And if you don't have those motor skills and those don't develop, you're actually causing a developmental delay in your child. So we've taken some of the things that seem so stupid, like hopping on one foot and playing and, imaginative play. And that is actually the basis for all of the other things that you need. That's the basis for reading. That's the basis for language acquisition. So it
Yep.
can't be either or. Like the people who are, what you're saying is, Dave, where your grandchild is like looking at a spoon and looking at how the world works. Like I taught a class on, all of the shapes and all these kind of things and cylinders in first grade. And I had, half the kids were like, this is their first experiment. And I go in the room and there's little Tony and he's got a thing of duct tape that he found and he's rolling it across the room. And my first instinct was like, we're trying to work. What are you doing? And he's like, look, Miss Pika, it's a cylinder. And it's like, so it's so important. It's so important to kind of step back and just watch and listen to see where they're going so that those skills are developed. And
that's the training that David was talking about with regards to his daughter, is that she was the one inhibiting the training because of her anxiety, because of her fear, of her FOMO. I need to get my child to, or she was just irritated. I mean, parents can be irritated. That's part of being a parent. So I realized, when I handed my granddaughter, some scissors and said, run these over to your father, that was probably a bad thing. But, you got to learn somehow, right?
I went into a grade 2 classroom to find that the children had built an X-ray machine out of blocks.
That's awesome.
And they had their parents lie down on this thing, and then they would hum and haul, and they all had smocks on. And the kid would draw an X-ray on a black sheet of paper with a chalk and make out what was wrong with them. And then they had to go to a counter and register to have some work done. And they had only learned this from one visit to the hospital. They went across to a hospital, were shown around, and the biggest impression it made on them was this machine where you lie down and the machine comes over you. And they built it in their classroom the next day and showed their parents. And I was just blown away. This is grade 2. Right. It's grade 2. They did it with blocks. I'm
going to try and flip the script a little bit. Actually, before I do that, let me just bring up, Andre is reflecting on a question about public school in Germany. He says it's kind of a mess for a bunch of years. Some teachers get the possibilities to thrive, which enables them to be good teachers. Many struggle with the immense omission of omission of reforms. So it sounds like it's not going.
It's like here, right?
Like here,
right.
What?
Because if you are
perfect.
If you're in the best classes I was able to set up was when they didn't care what I was doing. And then I was able to set up literally the best lessons that had every best practice, that had checks and balances along the way, that was scaffolded for everybody in the room. But I think that brings up something that I thought of when all of us were talking, is where are the adults getting their insecurity from that their child must be quiet and well behaved? And that's the other part of this technical conversation, because if you want to see parent shaming, you just go right down to the internet. So I think that that's also part of that, our reflection of going from a play-based childhood to going to one where children need to be productive but protected. That is coming from parents who are feeling a sense of judgment on what their choices are.
Just to be clear, Tamara, that transition point has from play-based to, that has gotten younger and younger and younger. Kindergarten classes now don't have, not many,
absolutely,
many don't have sports, physical education. They have 20 minutes total outdoors on the playground. And again, it gets back to this question that we have decided that free exploration is less important than the very structured, optimized program that we've put together. And that's getting younger and younger and younger. It's
And I think we now have the
Okay.
evidence that doesn't work
Right.
because we have the lowest
It
level
only
of
serves the
readers.
anxiety. It doesn't serve
Right.
the child. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sky, go ahead. Jump in.
Which backs to the Amazon, and the pharmaceutical industry being very grateful that they need to, provide more medication. No, my thought was with regards to, Tamara's observation, and David Paskin's your observation, my wife's comment as a guest teacher in multiple different schools, she's saying the third graders are now looking like sixth graders. The first graders are not paying attention because they're too busy looking at their phones unless the school physically takes them away. So again, we had complex lives growing up. We didn't have all of the nutritional things that the government said we had to have. And now we're learning that, maybe that pyramid should have been the other way around anyway. So
meat first.
How do we?
Isn't that what the new pyramid says? Meat first. Yeah.
That's
Look at
right.
Dave. Dave loves his meat. Beautiful. Wait, Sky,
I think you're.
So there's
Off the backyard.
the world continues to change, and I guess as we just discussed, and the perspective from Europe is saying, oh, it's messed up there too. I don't know if there is an ideal. That's where Tony's going to bring in and says, no, I've got it. Maybe not.
Real quick though, Sky, what does your wife mean, do you think, when she says third graders now look like sixth graders? In what respects?
Physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically.
That they're more mature?
Maturity has nothing to do with any of this conversation. The anxieties, the physicalities,
okay.
The mandates of expectation of oh no, did I freeze?
Understood.
I froze.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And there's one other piece to this, and then Tony, please by all means jump in, and that is that it's happened many times on this show and lots of shows when the argument that I've made about why technology is a problem is my arguments are very limited. It's that technology allows us to amplify things or problems or issues in ways that we could not before. Any issue has always existed. I almost did it in Hebrew, sorry. There's nothing new under the sun from the Bible. There's nothing new under the sun. We've had all these problems before, but technology...
It's just technology makes it go faster.
It makes it go faster, and it amplifies it in ways that we never could have done before. And so these algorithms that are driving education now, that are driving what our kids see on YouTube, it's driving what they see because they're all over Amazon just like their parents. That is amplifying. And there's a wonderful little quote that I found that says, it amplifies what they like, so they never get to discover what they love. Right. All the time that they like something, it just keeps giving them more of that. And goodness, a life of likes is not nearly as delightful as a life of love.
But also they're not getting the chance to discover. And so they're not getting a chance to play and be right and be wrong. And I work with college students now. This group that I have at our theater company right now, they are top notch. These are the smartest kids I have ever met. But we have to actively put them into situations where they're going to fail, where it's just not going to work for them, in order to give them what they really need to be successful in the world, is to be comfortable with failure and discovery and, finding out what makes things work.
Yeah, Sky and Tony.
And that was Alex Lindsay's quote too, was the nutrient-rich environment that we failed forward as a community, as a global community, trying to figure out how to survive a disaster. And that's the love that this, is a small subset of.
Yeah.
So thank you, Tony. And over to you.
Well, I just wanted to say it sort of, Tamara sort of took the words out of my mouth about play. And I'm reminded of a Star Trek movie called Insurrection, where they go through all of the stuff that they go through. But at the end of the movie, the young boy says to Data, he says, the most important lesson that you need to learn is to play. And Riker says, that's good advice, right? And I think that, what you mentioned earlier, David, in terms of, this idea that they have taken play out of schools for this thing of, we're going to go down this road that is precise in terms of how we think learning should take place, moves that thing of play. I know I had the opportunity as a child, 60 plus years ago, to be able to play dodgeball, and we did all of these things that you had to do in gym class, and so there was this separation from this academic kind of thing that you had to do. You didn't do it all day. You got a chance to run around and play and engage, form relationships outside of, because in the classroom you can't talk, right? You can't make friends in the classroom. Where you get to play was in gym class or outside at recess. And those were socialization opportunities that we as older people have had a chance to benefit from. Whereas young people now, this is the classroom. This is, not only did they take away play, if you think about it now, they took away home ec, they took away shop, they took away anything that would give you a sense of relationship, opportunity to think about things that were separate from academic, that could promote creativity. And so that is what I think most children are suffering from, this idea of play. Even when you go home, you got you can do your homework, and I hear parents, go outside and play, get away from the TV, do something, so I think that's part of it. The play part is extremely important.
There's I have families that come in and to tour my school all the time, and one of the things that I say to them is that I'm not at all interested in your child getting things right. Getting things right is boring. I love when they get it wrong, because that means they have to iterate. They have to try something new.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Tony, what you just said reminded me of a pretty famous TED Talk by a guy named Sir Ken Robinson called "Do Schools Kill Creativity?"
Oh, love Ken Robinson.
Such a good talk.
Yeah. The thing that's well, I won't get into my critique, but so this is his very famous TED Talk this is a long time ago now, called "Do Schools Kill Creativity?" And he essentially argues that what you just said. He argues that up until kids go to school, the whole world is open to them, and then as soon as they get there, we start clamping down. You also made me think, Tony, of when you were talking about how important recess and lunch is, and that when you ask a kid, so what's your favorite subject in school, and they say recess, and we as adults go like, no, really? Well, no,
What's
they
the
are being
subject?
real. Like, and that's
Yeah.
a real important aspect of school. Is you just made me think to myself, how many times have I dismissed a child saying recess was their favorite subject? And it is a subject, and it needs to be a subject. It is just as important as everything else. Go ahead, Sky.
I just remembered last summer building that staircase on the side of my house, and I have held saws, I have put nails in things, but to build something is when with wood and measurements and saws and big pieces of hardware and equipment, it was such a imagination experience. I mean, I've got a wild imagination as it is, but what I really realized is Legos are absolute and they're very square, but building with wood and screws is anything but square. And that's a part of creativity, But again, it also took imagination to think about this thing on the back of the napkin that we're sketching out is to solve a problem we need to get from here to here. What does the criteria mean? Well, it needs to look like it's always been there. Okay, what's the structural constraints? Well, the city of Edmonds is going to tell us that because they're going to come out and look at their code book, and we have to meet their specifications. Every 4 inches is on the railing, so small children. Okay, so many things I didn't know, but I allowed my imagination to go, how do we solve this problem with the materials we have in the time space that we have? And I'm very blessed that we now have a lovely staircase that my neighbors that live upstairs can now go up and down that direction rather than through my kitchen, which I do kind of miss them, but not at 2:00 in the morning when they had to take the dog out. So they now have their own staircase. And I also need to leave, and I wanted to say thank you again to this team for allowing me to participate. But I am in my other people groups facility, and we're going to go figure out how to love each other harder.
Well, that sounds delightful, actually. Go love each other harder. You know what? When you were talking about Legos, and then Tamara and Dave, I was thinking that Legos are like the town regulations, right? Because you're right, they are square, and you can't do anything about that. With wood, you can shave it down, you can sand it, you can make it whatever you want, but Legos really are fixed. There's something valuable also, though, about giving children something fixed and then having them figure out within limitations how to accomplish their goal, rather than just you can use anything that you can find how you accomplish your goal. Dave and Tamara, go ahead.
I was going to talk about Legos, but
go Tamara, go ahead.
Let me just finish the Lego conversation, because one thing that brought up to me is Legos is the perfect example, and then we want to blame technology, but Legos is a perfect example of things kind of going awry, because when you go to the Legos aisle, there are tons of Lego things that you can put together to the exact specifications of that box. You know what you can't find? A box of Legos. Just a plain box with a bunch of signed Legos. You don't need anything for them. And I feel like that is a perfect example of what has happened to us globally, where we have now said, we want you to make this treehouse, and here's all the pieces for you to make a treehouse, as opposed to what I had, which is here's a box of Legos and make anything you want. So I think that part of it is shifting in not just our digital technology, but it's also shifting in how we are providing tools for kids to learn and construct, and adults to learn and construct. I still like my plain Lego box.
Yeah, I agree. Dave, go ahead.
Well, I'll do my Lego thing too, because I grew up on Legos, and I had a 250 piece box that I got at Christmas one time, and I've still got it. And I play with it as therapy. But you're right, they're making it into things now, which takes away, I don't get to create this. But I just recently, last week, came across a website where they take the pre-made thing and turn it into something else. They made a Millennium Falcon out of something else. There was a bonsai tree one, and they turned it into well, anyway, it doesn't matter. He's very inventive, and there are a whole bunch of people trying this with taking their kids' thing and making a whole new thing. And it takes more creativity to do that, I think, than it is to do freeform stuff, like I made spaceships out of my stuff. I want to go back to recess, because I realized when Tony was talking, I learned at recess that girls play differently than boys do. When boys are playing a game and somebody breaks the rules, they stop the game. And they say, okay, let's not do that. And everybody agrees, okay, we won't do that. And we continue the game. When girls play, that somebody gets out of the way, they change the rules. They go, oh, okay, well, why don't we just accommodate that? Or why don't we just change? Why do we need that rule? We don't really, we'll play without that rule. And I thought, wait a minute, I can't play with girls because I want it to be fixed. And I know where the deadline, we're throwing the ball to a certain target and all that stuff. So if it doesn't go in the net, you get 1 point. And if it goes in, you get 2. Who made up that rule? And so I just found in recess, I learned this, that you can't play with girls the same way you can with guys. And that was the beginning of my understanding of women.
Well, how's that working out for you, Dave?
It works out great. I don't mess with her rules, and she doesn't mess with mine.
Oh, there you go.
Everyone should have to do recess duty. It is
It is.
mind-boggling.
It's wonderful to watch. Yeah.
One of the things that I've jumped into.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I've jumped into with both feet is metrics and using data in helping children in development and education.
Where's the emotional data? Where's the the creative data?
So we track a few things in our program, and this is one of the, early on. This is one of the first things I vibe coded was an app to allow us to do this. It's probably the most complex app that I did, and it tracks their math, and it's all based on skill acquisition. It tracks their language arts, but it also tracks character development differently because they earn badges for when we see them developing their character. But now I'm wondering if platforms like the one that I'm using and created is quantifying childhood performance instead of, again, it's making childhood measurable when perhaps it should be immeasurable.
Mm-hmm.
But measures can be good, right? I think the basic idea of measuring
But
progress.
who do they serve, really? Is it serving the admin and the financiers and the politicians, or is it serving the kids?
But here's where they've gone kind of awry, because it is helpful if I am watching my students and I'm giving a lesson and I'm checking and I'm like, wow, these kids didn't get any of that hard work that I prepared. If I don't have any kind of measurement, then I really don't. Then I can't get them to the next step and make sure that I need to remediate these people. I need to help this. I need to advance this.
Helps you to measure you. Yeah.
Right. It can help me. The problem that we've had with this data is it has become apparent to the kids. So what the kids see is a video game that needs to be played and that many times they can't succeed at. And that's the balance. Having data is so important, and we need data. That's why the No Child Left Behind was not inherently flawed in that it said, look, some schools are not performing and we're not making them accountable for having people in their classes. We're saying, oh, well, they don't matter. They're in a smaller community, or they're in a community that doesn't have the funds that are coming out of their property taxes because they're in a lower income community. So of course they're low. Instead of saying, if I know why someone is doing poorly, I can actually create a plan to help them. But what's happened over the last 20 years is we have kids in kindergarten where the child knows, hey, I am not on par. And I will tell you this, the kids can figure it out on their own. My first graders would walk into the class and they would make assumptions about themselves based on if they could read or not. And they would say, I'm stupid. Now, the data could show that they have absolutely passed that kid, the top kid in the class on day one, but they don't know that they've now owned that label for themselves that travels with them through school. So data is great, and we need it in order to really be able to assess what is the very best next step, which is exactly your point, David, with technology, where you're like, hey, they got these 3 math problems wrong, and there's a piece that they need. Let me give them that piece. That is excellent. But when kids start at the playground going, I'm on level 7 of the math program and you're on level 2, which inevitably happens. That happened with AR reading and all this. Then they have a self-efficacy that we are not dealing with to help them grow.
And that you're on level this and I'm on level that is also really good to push kids forward. I mean, that element of competition that's visible to, I've seen it this year, that having visible competition when it's not about winning, it's about pushing yourself forward. Maybe it's a little about winning, but it's also about pushing yourself forward is really healthy for the kids. And they're working harder because of it.
With that, another model is to say, use like what Lev Vygotsky said, which is everybody comes to the table with funds of knowledge, right? So every kid in your classroom, even that wiggly one who drives you up a wall, they come to the table with something that is better than someone else. And so some of that competition can be balanced with raising up leaders and raising up other things that are attainable. Because if I'm not a math person, like it's so funny, I went through all of school, they're like, well, you're an English person and you're not a math person. And so even when I got to college, I said, listen, Tamara, I know you're not a math person. It's okay. And I was cut out of classes like physics and things because I wasn't a math person. When I got to college, they're like, you could take math for the elementary school teacher. That way you can pass the math requirement and then, you're not a math teacher. And math for elementary school teacher taught 6 different ways to do each and every single problem. Turns out I was way number 6. If I would have had that, my life would have been completely different. My own self-efficacy as someone who doesn't understand math, because in fact, I did understand math. I used a different version than what my teacher was saying was right and wrong. So I think like it's really important to do both. I think we need to have data to measure student progress. We need to have programs that enforce competition, but we have to also understand that not everyone in the class is, that by labeling them as good and bad and level 1 and level 2, that cuts them out from all different things. And the truth of the matter is when I got into teaching and I started pushing into physics, I would have excelled at physics. I understand the math. It makes sense to me. I would have had a completely different outcome because that was my science that I didn't know that I could have and that I couldn't have. So I think that's one of the things we have to really think about as educators.
Vic is
speaking of someone who flunked grade 12 physics, but loved the classes and attended and focused and went to and did all the problems. And then at the end, I realized, no, I was looking at it. I was overthinking physics and went back to, all I want is the formula. Oh, I can do that all day long.
Vic is watching on YouTube and he was going back to the idea of being wrong. He says that Neil deGrasse Tyson has mentioned how valuable being wrong can be because that's when you ask yourself, wonder why that happened. And that's where discovery and deep learning can happen. And, he made me think that I remember years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I served on the board of the Brain Tumor Society. And every year we gave out millions of dollars in grants. And every year the scientists would come back, the researchers would come back and give us reports on how they used the funds. And every single report was a failure because they had not found a cure for brain tumors, right? But it was those failures that we celebrated because every failure gets you, it helps you ask a better question and gets you an inch closer, a centimeter closer to the big, to the big win. But
to the clue that gets it all,
was fascinating to me because I had just never thought about how valuable failure is.
It's so important.
Yeah.
So
Really
important.
Tony, any final thoughts for us? Without putting you on the spot?
I was kind of wrestling with whether or not I was going to share this. I was kind of disagreeing with you a little bit
now
about
you
the,
have
the
to.
competition.
Go for it.
Now
Go
you
for
have
it. We're here for you.
Go. Disagree. Disagree with all of us.
So I was thinking
You're
about
wrong.
I was thinking about the competition thing, and I would say that I think that you're right in that if all things are equal, the person that has the 2 score and the person that has the 5 score, that would be great. It inspires them to compete and raise the level. But the problem for me in that scenario is that in most cases, all things are not equal.
Right.
And so that if a person's self-respect is compromised for whatever reason, mom and dad yelling at each other, there's not enough food in the house, whatever the case may be, that they are not, that conversation that you're level 2 just adds to the weight that person who's on level 2 has to carry. And so, yes, If things are equal, yes, that's great. But in most cases, things are not equal. And so that's where the problem lies. And across, and I'm making a general statement, across America, I think that in a lot of communities, things are not equal. And because things are not equal, we are dealing with a lot of different things. And so data can be twisted for whoever desires a particular outcome. And that's just kind of the way we are, where things are right now.
Yeah.
I don't think you're disagreeing with us, actually. Yeah, I think
Right.
we agree with you.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting too is you would think that it really has to do with low income areas and high income areas. In my teaching career, which I'm no longer teaching full time, full disclosure, I taught in the South Bronx, I taught in East LA, and in South LA. I taught in private schools, public schools, religious schools, non-religious schools, and I taught in schools where it cost $96,000 a year. And you would think in that $96,000 a year to go there, where those kids had everything going for them, that they would have, equal everything. And even in that situation, you did not have that. So I think that when you put a group of humans together, they come to the table with so many different things, both good and bad, that it isn't equal. And part of the job of teaching is making it equitable and making it so that everybody is getting what they need. And that is an incredibly difficult job. And it's one that we know best practices that work, but it's almost impossible in the setup that we have. You don't have enough planning time. And, I work with teachers now, and, they're like, I don't have enough planning time to be able to do those things. And I think that, and the things that are the curriculum of the moment, or whatever the new research of the moment says, which is different if you're on the East Coast versus the West Coast, it's hard to get that into something that you can repeat and refine and fail at and get better at. And I think that's one of the things that is the most difficult thing about educators. I don't envy anybody in that position, because I think that Tony's exactly right. We do not have we don't have an equitable situation, and trying to give people equal situation is not going to help them.
Yeah, the other thing to consider is that, when people who are poor harm themselves, people minimize it. It's not a big thing. But a person who is, let's say an actor or a millionaire or a high profile athlete, they kill themselves. It's more of a concern. Why would they do that? They had everything to live for. But the same consideration, the question should be asked of the poor person as well as the rich person. But that's not the way society works. So again, whether you're wealthy or not, whether you're poor or not, it doesn't matter. We're not all on the same playing field. And it has to do with how we see ourselves inside. Mm-hmm. And if education does anything that can build us up, all of us, then I think that we are succeeding. And by that, what I mean is that we take the experience that we have, regardless to what barriers we faced, and that we're able to go beyond whatever the expectation is for our lives. As a person who was told that you should never go to college, you should just go to a trade school. Well, it worked out well that I actually got a trade and I went to college. So I used both of them to work together to do what to be who I became to be. So I look at it like, just recognize that people are just not in the same space.
Mm-hmm. As the first in my family to be able to qualify for university and choosing to go to trade school, I was a big disappointment to my mom.
Before we wrap, I have an important update about Amazon Health.
Excellent.
It found my records.
Oh, do tell. Don't tell us your records, but I mean, do tell
Well, I
us.
don't care. I mean, there's nothing here that I'm like ashamed of. I mean, this is crazy. It knows what medications I'm taking. It knows that I've had, what surgeries I've had. It knows what immunizations I've gotten, my recent vitals. I don't know how, like my lab results. I mean, this is I
have all those on tap.
I had no idea this was publicly available to any. I mean, I gave permission for it. It's not like it just scripted
you did.
itself, but
you weren't aware that it was all being assembled or
I had no idea.
But that does make the AI totally stronger, right? Because it is not giving you just random information. It's saying, given what I can see on what you have, then this might be X, Y,
not
Z.
serious or serious. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a portal with my own password that gets me to all my health information. All that same stuff.
Well, no, I have that also.
All my childhood.
Now I can't find the screen to turn this off. Hold on a second. No, I have. Here it is.
You have access to that
through
information
my own
yourself.
doctor. Of course, I can access all my. But I didn't. But Amazon has it. Like that's.
Yeah, but doctor. So I went to get records that weren't coming up on my portal, and I called the health agency. I was like, hey, this test that I had isn't on my portal. They're like, yeah, we're having problems with our computer. And I was like, no problem. Can I just come and pick it up? And they're like, nah, we can't print. And then they said, what do you need this for? Are you going to give it to another doctor? Because I would have an easier time getting that data to another doctor than I would be to get it to you. And I was like, okay, well, that's problematic, but that's probably why your Amazon is, not the bookstore division. This is the doctor division, which probably has the medical team that they have on staff to be able to request documents and have other agencies give it to them. Which
That
is
is
exactly
really-
what
I
happened.
think it's a different. I think it's a different thing. I think all of our medical information is being warehoused,
Right.
and that Amazon has the ability to go into that.
I mean,
Well, but anyone would, because what you presume is that, listen, there's probably main people who do these portals. Your portal, Dave, and my portal may be the same back end where all of our information is sitting on the same set of servers, and you
Somewhere
get it through
in
your
Canada,
portal.
but yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like Tony's probably right. It's warehoused, but it's not warehoused by Amazon or anyone else. It's all in a similar place. And once you have the right access codes and permissions, then you can grab whatever you need.
this is telling me I have things I didn't know I had.
Same as the credit scores. The
Right.
loan
Yeah,
companies.
exactly.
Yeah.
This is wild. Okay. Hey, folks, next week we are having an early celebration of Apple's 50th anniversary, Apple's 50th
So
birthday,
excited.
which comes up on April 1st. So next week we're going to do that. The following week I won't be here. And I know that I said we weren't going to have, I think I said we weren't going to have a show. We might end up having a show anyway. I just won't be here. We're trying to figure that out because now that we are one of the daily shows, to not have a rundown is a problem. We don't want to break the streak. So we're working on that on the back end, but definitely join us.
I'm working
next
on
week.
a big surprise for next week. I got a big surprise
Oh,
for you.
man. Now you're teasing. Now
excited.
you're just teasing me.
No, 50th anniversary.
There you go. There you go. Folks, it's so lovely to have you here, to have you in the chat and sharing with us. And I'm so grateful to everyone for being a part of this, especially Dave and Sky and Tony and Tamara, and sending love to Lois. And if you ever want to join us here, just come on by. Just hit me up over in Discord or go over to therundown.show. We'd love to see you soon. Until then, have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye, everyone.